Sakpase and Malingayam Bangfantin to today's episode. It's Asian American Pacific Islander Month and Haitian Flag Day has come and gone. Today's guest, Samantha, is a Haitian-Filipino CGI designer who has worked with tech, beauty, and CPG brands. In our conversation, we talked about her journey to becoming a full-time freelance CGI designer, her project Living with the Stains, which was inspired from EMDR, eye movement desensitization, and reprocessing therapy, how she embraces her cultural background as a Haitian Filipino. Get ready to have your cup poured into. Hi, Samantha. Oops.
How is
Of course, my
Shiva?
headphones knocked out. Sorry. Hi, Samantha. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I feel good today. Like it's good weather outside, so okay.
Girl, I know we're both in two different states now, but like New York, the sun is sunning. The weather is like, it's
That's
spring is
good.
here. The people are
Yeah, you
happy.
guys like need some good weather, like
Yes.
after this winter too. Yeah.
No, definitely, definitely. And I guess that also relates like how's your mental health doing today? Like you're feeling good, the weather's good and everything like that.
My mental health is good. I think
Okay.
like, like I was saying, like the past few weeks, like there was a lot going on, but
Mhm.
I'm feeling like things are getting better, calming down, and I feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree. I think like I just got some news this morning and I'm just like, wow, like it just put into perspective that we really have to appreciate life and go after
Mhm.
everything we want and just live life to the fullest because you never know like what can happen. So living life with no regrets.
Right.
So yeah. Alrighty, so let's start from the beginning ish. Where did you grow up? Where are you from and where did you grow up?
I am from West Palm Beach, Florida. So South Florida area, like near Miami-ish. Um, I was born in New York, like lived there for a little bit, like in my early life. Also lived in like Haiti for a little bit, but I would say like predominantly a lot of my childhood to adolescence was in like West Palm, South Florida area.
And being that you mentioned that you lived in Haiti for a little bit, your background is Haitian and Filipino.
Yeah.
Okay. So what makes up being a Haitian Filipino woman in your eyes?
Um, I think like for me, I guess like tying back to like the last question, like the West Palm area, like I grew up really like surrounded by, I guess, like Caribbean cultures, like both like Haitian, a lot of Filipino people in the area. Um, and like I think having that ability to be like surrounded by like a lot of my cultures is like really important to me. And I think for me, it's just like a matter of like embracing my backgrounds, um, eating good food, keeping in like touch with my cultures as much as I can. Um, like now I think like 2 years ago, like I visited the Philippines for the first time. It's like mad far. So it was like, not something I've ever done before. And like, it was like really nice to, I guess, be around like my people and things like that. Learn about the country, the culture, the history. And like I said, like I've visited Haiti a lot in the past, obviously nowadays it's like not as easy to travel there and there's a lot going on politically. But like yeah, like being informed and like seeing how I can show up for like the people around me is like what I consider what it makes to be Haitian Filipino.
Alrighty. So let's get into like somewhat of the beginning. When you were in high school preparing for your next steps, what did you think your next step would be? Like, would you go to college? Did you think you would go and pursue art full time? What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess like I was grateful and like kind of lucky enough to go to like a middle and high school that were like art schools. I know I mentioned that to you like before, like I, was lucky enough to kind of like be able and encouraged to like be creative from like a really young age. And so it was not something that I like pursued seriously, but it was always something that was like a part of my life. And I grew up like just like a very simple like middle class family. Like the expectation was to go to college and stuff like that. I like there was definitely expectations that my family had, just like being an like immigrant like kid and stuff. But I, went to high school and like really started taking like art and design more seriously and just like knew it was something that I wanted to pursue. And so as I was taking my portfolio more seriously and things like that, it was like important like to me like to like really consider those options and like get scholarship and all those things to like really make that a possibility. And so yeah, that's what I pursued.
So were you first introduced in were you first introduced to art in middle or high school, or how did you get that introduction into art?
Yeah, I think honestly from a really early age, even like elementary school, I always was really passionate about drawing and like just like with my markers and like my Crayola and like I was always interested in that. And I think like very early on, I think, my friends and family like noticed that that was something that I just naturally wasn't too bad at, I guess. Like I took it really seriously even then. Um, and yeah, I guess like from there, it just like was something that I kept doing.
So sorry about that, but yeah, I love like the introduction into art from Crayola and like drawing and stuff, because
Yeah.
I feel like as I'm in this state of where I am in my life, I feel like I'm trying to return back to my childhood and things that I did as a child that
Mhm.
just brought me like creativity and just like, even though we weren't
Yeah.
stressed about things as kids, but what we were stressed about, it just like disconnects and help you to just relax and just
Hmm.
not think about life's things.
Yeah, I
Um,
think like, yeah, sorry.
no, you're fine, you're fine.
No, I was just saying like, yeah, whatever like inspires you like from a young age, like, really helps you like in adulthood, like if that's something that you have like the privilege of like exploring for sure.
No, definitely. And that's the key is I think I look up to so many celebrities who like work hard and do all the things that they need to do and then like get enough money and then they disconnect and like run away and like go be creative and have the privilege to like travel and just like take art classes
Yeah.
or dance classes or whatever. That's what I'm fighting for right now.
For
Um
real.
okay, so growing up you said you were encouraged by your family and friends because they saw your love for art and your interest in it to like really pursue that as a career, because you knew that being first generation, you knew college was like, okay, that's definitely a part of my next step, but it's just what is my major going to be or what am I doing at college?
Well,
Oh,
actually, no,
oh,
actually, I was just gonna say no. I
okay,
actually
okay.
wasn't encouraged to pursue art. I think it was like something I was good at. I think like my family recognized that maybe I had certain talents in it. But it was always something that was supposed to just be a hobby. Um, like just coming from like immigrant families, like Haitian Filipinos, it's just like you're a doctor, lawyer, engineer, and that's kind of it. So, or nurse, I guess, a lot of nurses. And that was like kind of the expectation for me to pursue that. And so it was like a big step for me to like decide like actually that's not what I want for my life and I'm not excited by those things. Um I think like ultimately like your family just wants what's best for you and like the security of it and things like that. But yeah, I just moved in a different direction.
No, yeah, that's what I was confused when I was saying that. I'm like, wait, like I can't believe her family was so encouraging of this, because I'm used to what you said. Like I'm used to especially first generation and especially because in Miami I grew up around a lot of Haitians, so I'm used to a lot of my Haitian friends were always nurses or in somewhere in the medical field, nurse, doctor, like you said, lawyer, like anything where it's like you're making well into the early to mid six figures when you're done with
Hmm.
school. Just because it's seen as a security job. And even though I know this is our second time doing this recording, all that has happened between that recording to now, it just shows that what job is secure,
Yeah,
what's
for real.
the American dream anymore. Like I don't even know. And I think
That's
it,
real.
no, yeah, yeah. So it's just what is life? But okay, so your family supported art in the sense of a hobby, in the sense of, okay, this makes her happy, it's keeping her engaged and not like, doing other things. Sure, we'll support it. But when it comes to schoolwork or her career, she's going to go be a doctor, nurse, teacher, lawyer. So then you go to college and you start off college in what field then? Or what
I
major?
guess like in art, I
What do
mean
you
in
say?
art school there's like kind of like foundation classes that you take, and then
Okay.
from there you kind of like find
Volume.
your skill set that you're more drawn to. So, I like pursued like more like 3D digital fabrication. Like that was like what I was interested in
Mm-hmm.
at the time. And, I used a lot of 3D modeling programs and, but more for like spatial planning or like fabrication methods and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, but then I like noticed like I really like being behind a computer. I really like 3D modeling. And so that's how I kind of started moving towards like animation programs and like more towards kind of the more like creative side of like 3D and CGI work. And so, you know, I graduated during the pandemic, so it's also like what? Like you're just really graduating kind of, I mean, at that point, really focusing on your health and the
Yeah.
people around you for sure. But eventually, like, in this remote world, like where do I fit in? And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of how I pursued like a lot of branding work and like thinking of campaigns like with 3D and like seeing that kind of avenue. So yeah,
Okay. So stepping back a little bit, what was the conversation like when you finally told your parents that you were going to school for art and not one of these like sustainable jobs that we know to be seen within the American dream?
I think that it really wasn't an easy conversation. It wasn't, it was hard, I think, because I didn't want to disappoint. Like I know that just like having immigrant parents, like, they sacrifice a lot to come to the US. That's the narrative for like every immigrant kid, but um there's certain expectations that like we came here to set up a better life for you, for us, for like the generations after you and things like that. So I knew it was like bigger than me too. And so it was a lot of pressure and it wasn't easy to like kind of devastate them, I guess, in that sense. But it wasn't also something that I hadn't like thought about for several years at that point. Like it just didn't seem like something that I would actually do. Um, and I think, I grew up mostly with my dad and like I think that he wasn't happy, like he wasn't ecstatic about it, but I think that he knew that if I didn't like at least try, like that would be a huge what if in my life. And I think he at least wanted me to try. And then I think he was worried for a while about what I was doing. And now, I'm been working for several years and I've like established myself a lot more in my field. And now I think he like feels better, like knowing like, oh, she's working with these brands, like she must be doing good. Like, I don't even think he fully knows what I do, but it's just kind of better now, I think. And I think in the end, like pursuing what I needed like to do was the best thing for me. So
No, yeah, something you said just now was that it was bigger than me. I think that that's definitely the case, especially like when you're first generation. And your parents, like you said, they sacrifice so much to come here and create a better life for them and for you. And I think they only just want the best for you. You're their child, you're their baby. Like, who
yeah.
doesn't? And like you said, it is a risk and a challenge going out and doing something where you're like, okay, I can make money as an artist, but I don't know how much I'm gonna make versus if I go be like a nurse or a doctor, I know I'm gonna make around this much to this
Uh-huh.
much. And I know I'm gonna be working like 40 plus hours a week. And if I have a family, who knows if I'll see my family or like
Yeah.
this I know what like it's like the Matrix. I know what pill A will bring me or option A, but option B is the road where it's like I don't know what's gonna happen.
Uh-huh.
Um
Yeah.
and I think back to what you also said before that was you graduating in 2020 during the pandemic. who knew what life was going to be like after that? It's been 5 years now,
Uh-huh.
since the pandemic happened. So it's a lot of what ifs. But like you said, your dad, like seeing you now working with so many big brands, it's like, oh, okay, I guess everything's working out. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's a hard chance to take
Yeah.
just because you don't want to let your family down, you don't want to let yourself down. So it's a lot of pressure, but you're succeeding.
I
We'll
think I
get
had to like I had to. I was like, I cannot fail. Like, yeah. And
no,
that's a different
yeah.
pressure, but yeah.
No, yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but even to just go off what you're saying, like I think that certain like fields like medicine or like nursing or all those things, like there's like a lot of just like mapped out paved roads for like, okay, like for the most part, like this is how the next steps of your life
Hmm.
and this is what's gonna happen next. But I think like being a creative, working as a designer, working like there's so many avenues you can take and there's so many like opportunities that could work for you and could not, and there's no real path. And so I think that was kind of like one of the challenging things was like, where do I fit in? And like,
Hmm.
and like I had a lot of friends who pursued gallery art and I was like, I don't want to like do that. Like that's not me. And
Hmm.
so I had to like really navigate and like find spaces for myself. But I'm just someone that I guess that's a challenge I wanted. So
Yeah, I agree. I think like where I am right now as a creative, it's a lot of like I journaled about this yesterday. I have a lot of
hmm.
friends who are really supportive and they're like, do this, do that. But it's really getting in tune with yourself where it's like you just said, that's not
Hmm.
me or that's not something I want to do. And it's not to or discredit any of the advice or um, recommendations your friends are giving you, but it's really fighting for like what you want. Okay, so yeah, so I think like for me being a creative, it's a lot of like you don't know what's gonna happen. Oh, friendships. So yeah, so like a lot of friends are like giving their advice and say like what you should and shouldn't do, and it's all received. But I think it's like knowing like what you want for yourself and going after that. And that's
Hmm.
hard because like you said, there's no mapped out plan. You kind of are just figuring it out as you go. So it's a
Yeah,
challenge.
no,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay, sorry, were you gonna say something?
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Okay, sorry. It's like getting back reset again. Okay, so hold on, we kind of okay, how does your cultural background inspire your art? It's like being Filipino and Hispanic, I mean Haitian, sorry. Being Filipino and Haitian, how does that like influence or inspire the art that you create?
I think that a lot of the work that like a lot of my personal work, like branding aside, whenever I do have time to create, a lot of my work is like almost like a journal. I know you mentioned like journaling a lot, like writing, and I think for me, I do that like visually, I guess. So a lot of the like personal work that I do is like kind of like a visual diary, visual journal of like me just kind of like reflecting on things. And so a lot of that has to do with like my upbringing and the personal, just like my experiences, but just like visually, aesthetically, I do bring in kind of like the tropical, the like nostalgia of like just like my past experiences, a lot of the like foods that I've like grown up eating, like it's also just like memories that I've had, but also like important for me, like when I'm creating my work to be as like specific as possible, right? Because it's like so easy to like just generalize like people of color and things like that. But when I'm creating my work, like I try and like bring in like a lot of those like cultural symbolisms in the work. Um, some of the like health and like spiritual undertones of like certain foods that we eat. Um, and yeah, I guess like a lot of the experiences that I had like been having through therapy and like navigating some of those like generational traumas and stuff, like that's like all kind of like part of the work and inspired by I guess like my cultural upbringing.
No, yeah, I can definitely agree. Like when I see your art, I can feel like the depth and like your personality come through even when you're doing art for a brand. But it definitely is bright, tropical. It feels fun. I feel like lively. I feel somewhat light and just like free versus I do think like no shade to other artists. I do think other cultural, sorry, Milo is on the table. Other cultural artists, sometimes it does it's not dark, it just feels very deep and just like it's just a different type of art. It feels very deep, the colors are very like rich and bold, and it feels like there's just so much like history and just so much coming out. um
Yes.
and I know we're gonna get into this is so hard being a re-recording, and I'm not gonna keep saying that, but ever since we had our first recording and you said the EMDR, I have been looking for EMDR
Yeah.
therapists and somatic therapy. I don't think you mentioned somatic therapy, but I've been looking for it
No.
ever since that conversation. It's hard to
Awesome.
find. It's really hard to find.
Really? In your area?
Yeah, a lot of
Oh,
the therapists I've found aren't certified in it, but they're aware of it. I actually just
okay.
spoke to a therapist yesterday and she recommended I just do yoga for 2 weeks. She's like, do yoga and listen to your body and see in what areas you feel like not trauma, but just like, I don't want to even say pain, but you just feel like you're holding something there.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
That's like interesting. I don't know. I guess like being here in Florida, I have seen a few therapists like offer it. Like I don't know, I guess maybe it just depends on where you're located.
Hmm.
And I hope that you like can find, someone that can cater to that. I think, yeah, I guess like going back to like what we talked about in the past, like with EMDR, it's not like typical talk therapy. And I
Hmm.
I think that like a lot of people and especially like a lot of like black and brown communities like talk therapy, like people kind of turn away from that as an idea just because talking about our emotions and things like that, reflecting on like our agitations for the day, like all those things, like that's not something like personally feel like I've learned growing up, and that's not part of the conversations that I've had, and it's something that I had to like really learn as I was just becoming like growing into like adulthood. Is just like I'm not communicating great, like, like I don't know how to be in touch with my emotions and things like that. So that was like a hard thing, just being like, wow, like I'm not inept, but like it's like I'm an adult and like I need to figure this out. So, having the conversations we're having right now, like, that's like I've had to get to this point. But EMDR is great because, when you're not really feeling like opening up, like, the EMDR, like bilaterals, like simulation movements, like kind of just help the brain, I guess, like relax and not like, when you're dealing with like difficult emotions and feelings, like you're not like your brain's not like trying to protect you. Like you're like have to like deal with those emotions and hopefully heal from them. So I think it's like great for most people to try out.
Yeah, it's like the flight or fright stage where it's like, okay, do
Yeah.
I like go or not go? One of my friends, she keeps telling me to read the book Your Body Keeps a Score, and I think that's like
Yeah.
connected to somatic or EMDR therapy, where it's like you're seeing where your body holds the trauma or like your past
Right.
experiences. I'll say about the mental health questions for the end. I'll jump back to where we were to not throw us
Okay.
off.
Okay.
So we've talked a lot about your art, just like how your parents, your dad played a role in like supporting you once he finally got a work, like you going into art school and just you like pursuing art as a career. What has been some of the challenges aside from from your parents, unless your parents were a part of that, but what has been some of the challenges of becoming an artist, and also aside from you graduating in 2020 and figuring that out, like how did you figure that out? How did you overcome that state of the world and life?
Hmm. I think like the biggest thing I could tell any creative, especially nowadays, is I had to learn to be flexible and
Mm,
like really, think about my skill sets and like where I could apply them, right? Especially like post-COVID, it's like everything that like I learned in school, like what can I bring into this like remote world now? at the time, like everything was just like remote. And so, I entered like corporate world and that was like a unique experience, like working like part of a creative team. But I liked that kind of storytelling of it, and that's something that I bring into freelancing. But of course now I have like more freedom and like I have more, I guess, like opportunity to be part of the creative process and like direct a lot of it. So it just gave me a lot more flexibility and freedom now. Um, can you repeat the question again?
I said, how did you overcome the challenges you may have faced, like pursuing art as a career? Like, if any did come through your parents or even just you yourself. And I know you said like learning to be flexible was one of them.
Mm-hmm. I think also like going back to what you said, like learning to trust yourself, like trusting your skill sets, learning, like knowing when you need to develop more too. Um, Finding those communities of people, finding mentors, um, and people that can help you like really navigate like what works for you and what doesn't, like figuring out what rates that you need to have and things like that. Like really like figuring out what it means to like be working in as an artist. And I think for a lot of people, there's like a lot of struggles is like kind of the financial aspects of it. Like, can I like sustain myself and like can I find like consistent work with it? And like for me, I guess like I, worked corporate for a while, developed my portfolio on the side, and like developed my freelance like more and like poured into that side of like my creative because I knew that's what I wanted. And so it was like I was doing this because it's like stable and stuff. And then also like, you develop a lot of skills, I guess, in corporate. And then like making sure that like I was building like for myself and what I really wanted. And then I guess like in the end, like the slow process of it like helped me get there. And I think people think like, oh, like you can't sacrifice, like you gotta pursue what you want. But sometimes you like need to find a balance, right? Like financials are important, like making sure you can like take care of yourself and your foundation is solid because when you're just like constantly thinking about like the necessities of life, like it's hard to be creative and like it's hard to like have that space to be open-minded and like pursue those like things. Not everyone has the like freedoms to do that. So um finding that stability for myself until I could like really pursue freelancing, until I could really pursue this and like finding that discipline of like meeting those goals, being flexible and all those things like are really important.
No, yeah, that's the key is like you said like stability, but also just staying like consistent, yeah, but I think trusting the process. Like this is a sacrifice for you to work corporate to do this, to do that, to then eventually be able to be where you are now, freelancing and working for yourself and working with some of the biggest brands that are out there. So if you wouldn't have done that, who knows if you would have even like any of these opportunities you have today,
Yeah.
which is a good thing. This is a very good thing. Next question. So I believe I saw like earlier last year you released a project called Safe Space.
Yeah.
What inspired that project?
Um like that like larger body of work in that series, funny enough, like did kind of reflect on my experiences like in EMDR. Um, because I said like a lot of my work is like a journal in itself and a way of me for like processing like just life things. And um like safe spaces, a part of EMDR, it's like when you're maybe dealing with like some of those difficult experiences and sometimes you can't like get over it right now. So it's a matter of like, okay, like let's enter our safe spaces, like let's find those places in our mind that make us feel like we are safe and we are better. And so it was like a series of work that made me think about what safe spaces look like for me. And like that went back to a lot of those tropical environments that I told you about. But also like maybe what safe spaces like look for like for just like Black and brown people in general, and like thinking about that, I guess, like in my body of work. And yeah, I think it's just like a fun journaling visual diary for me.
I love that. Okay, while we're on it, let's just get into the mental health questions because we keep going back to it, and I'm like, no, let's go here. Let's just get into it. Okay,
Okay.
so growing up, how is mental health talked about within your family and culture? Did you and your dad have conversations about it? What was that like?
Not at all.
Mhm.
Like that's not, I think like even now it's like so taboo for maybe like our generation, like it's like so much more acceptable. I think maybe some people are still like shy about talking about it, maybe, but I like am a huge advocate. I'm like, all y'all need to go to therapy, like for real. I don't know, but I don't think it's a bad thing, and I don't think you need to have like the like most horrible experiences to go to therapy. Like sometimes you just need to reflect. Sometimes you, like we talked about, like need to develop that kind of emotional intelligence to be in touch with yourself. Like that's just a part of adulting, like, and that's not something that, at least for me, I grew up having, emotionally regulating myself, all those things. I honestly was kind of conditioned to be emotionally considering everyone else and their feelings. Like, like that's always like something that, I've had to like learn to people please so much in my life. And um now that I've, been doing a lot more of the work, you'll be doing the work forever for the rest of your life. But now it's like about me thinking about like when do I need to give to myself more? Where do I need to keep having those boundaries, and just making sure like my needs are being met, because those are not conversations that we had growing up. And it affected like my mental a lot, like growing up, and I just didn't even know. I didn't even know how to process that. Um, but I guess at some point I was getting older, and just like, it affects the people around you, the people you love, and like when you aren't like healed, hurt people. And it got to a point where you have to like look yourself in the mirror and like really like know like you have to take responsibility for yourself. So it doesn't matter what happened to you in the past, like you can only do what's good for you now. And yeah, I would say that was not something my family and I talked about. No.
Retweet everything you said. Like it's literally my life right now. It wasn't something me and my family talked about, and like I said before we started the call, like it's hard when you're the one doing the work, but the people around you are maybe they are doing the work, but they're at a different stage in you, but they maybe aren't. And it's learning
Hmm.
to like navigate and just like, oh, my mom did this. How do I react to that? And why do I react that way to that? And how can I like better regulate my emotions and
Yeah.
change my behavior around that? Just because like I think what you were saying was that I think in our generation, there's more people that are in therapy or doing the work than there was in the other generation. Like there that we may have a few friends here and there who are like, I'm not in therapy, but they're not like hating on it because you are. They're just like, I don't
Not my
need that.
thing.
They do, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not their thing. But like in the older generation, there's more people that aren't in therapy than there are that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it sucks because I think I don't know how our generation is going to be when we get older, but I think in their generation, the older they get, the more they get stuck in their ways. I think in some ways we do get stuck in our ways in our generation, but I think not because I feel like things like social media constantly changing or things changing so much in our generation.
Right.
Even if you don't want to, you're kind of forced to change or you're kind of forced to
Mm-hmm.
adapt. So we have no choice in some ways. Um,
Yeah, that's
mhm.
real.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, just to go off what you're saying too, like
Mhm.
that's like a huge part of it, right? Like acknowledging like the people around you have like added to your like hurt, right? And a big part of the healing journey is like, I don't know, for me, like a forgiveness, you know, not for them, but for yourself, right? Like
Hmm.
forgive and let that go because you can hold on to it and it can like just be something that hurts you all this time, or you can like let it go and accept that, your parents or whoever are human beings and have their own journey that they will or will not take on.
Yeah, that what you said is something you kind of just hit a thing because I'm going through something with I'll share later, but I'm going through something and it's like, dang, I need to like forgive this person and just move on because it's controlling or it's starting to control my life. But
Hmm.
even for family or other people in my life, I have to forgive. And like I told my therapist yesterday, it's like I have to also remind myself we're all living this life for the first time. We don't know
Mm.
what
Yeah.
we're doing all the time. Yes, there's rules. Yes, there's you should be doing this, you should be doing that, but should we? Do I have to? It's like so it's like it's really just respecting that, you know what, we're all given what we're given and we're handling
Hmm.
it and making a choice based off of whatever it may be. So it's just learn to
Yeah.
respect people and their decisions, forgiving them and just, you know what? That's what they're gonna do and I'm gonna protect me and move on.
Right.
Hmm. So I read, I don't know if this is true, if this is still true or where you are in the state of things, but I read that you're working on a body of art called Living with the Stains to reflect on your healing journey through EMDR. I know we've mentioned a lot about that and you painting through that. So can you share in your own words what EMDR is? I know you kind of mentioned that earlier, maybe therapy is, and if not, go ahead and phrase it now, and then what led to art as your way of releasing rather than talk therapy or other forms of
Mm.
therapy.
Yeah. EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. And it's just a form of psychotherapy that kind of just tackles difficult emotions and like memories that kind of head on. Um, and through kind of like bilateral simulations, like we talked about, and kind of like takes your brain out of the flight or flight kind of moments and like allowing you to reprocess them in such a way that hopefully ultimately you can heal from them, because these are memories that your brain was protecting yourself from, and like without you really knowing it, it like had been stored in your body all this time. And so it's like a therapy that really just connects the body and the brain like in such a unique way for me that um allows me and makes me feel like I'm really calming my nervous system, you know? Um and more than that, like it's a type of theory that is very sensational and allowed me, I guess, like someone who's a visual person, to kind of visualize and create like certain symbolisms for these like emotions and things that I was dealing with. And so in therapy, I had to create like a container. Like the idea is like, where do you store some of these difficult thoughts and these emotions and these things? And it's like, it was about creating containers, it was about creating safe spaces and kind of visualizing these symbolisms in a way that my brain could process them towards healing. And so, in thinking of like this body of work that I was telling you about, it's um just like I guess like the visual diary of just like what it really means for me to consider healing. And healing's not always pretty. And like there's that like visual aesthetic, right, of the like calm tropical environment, but it's also about like dealing with those like harder feelings as well. And like finding the balance of like safe spaces and those containers that are more difficult. Um, and so living with the stains is actually like from a conversation that I had with my therapist where um she had mentioned like at one point like, you know, like sometimes you kind of like hold on to things. You hold on to them, you hold on to these feelings, you hold on to these ideas of yourself because who would you be if you didn't have them, right? These are things that like have been controlling you for your whole life. And I said to her like, girl, it's not that easy. Like, I wish, like that's why I'm here. It's like you wish you could so, like that these things happened to you, they were bad, and like now you're an adult and you know that. But it's like it's something that's stored in your body, like we talked about. And I like was explaining to her it's like a shirt on my stain, and I want to get it out, but I just like it doesn't matter what I do, it's not coming out. And it's like the shirt's not the same anymore. And so that was like, this visualization that I had of these difficult things, these difficult experiences. And I'm just like staring at the shirt, and but then I was like, and then I was like visually changing in my mind. I'm like, this shirt stain could be kind of cuter. Like maybe I could fix her up a little bit. And so then that kind of shifted my mind a little bit, where it's like the stain's there, but you can like make it look better. You can add to it, you can change it. I'm an artist. I visually changed it. And in a way, it's like I changed my perspective on it, and I can wear these stains proudly. And like that's the direction that I'm want to head in. And so that was like a huge turning point, I guess, for my healing journey of just like really trying to see the positive in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love what you said. Like the healing is not, it's not a clean process. It's very messy. Like there's moments where you're like, oh my God, I'm healing. Yay. Then there's moments where it's like, ooh, that just brought up something that I didn't realize I forgot.
Yep.
Same like you, which is why I want to do somatic therapy. I feel like there's things, or EMDR. I keep saying EDMR, but it's EMDR. EMDR therapy is because I feel like there's certain things stored in me that I don't remember happened to me until like me
Mhm.
being in talk therapy, just getting out. I'm like, oh my God. And then this happened, or oh, I forgot this happened before that, or that happened. And that's why it's just, I think
Yeah.
because I realized I've been in survival mode for so long, I just haven't been able to just like sit and just be. So it's really hard, but yeah,
Yeah, I really hope that you can like find someone that can help you with EMDR, because,
I
I feel
hope
like
so
it
too.
sounds like something that would really like work for you.
I know when you mentioned it before, I was like, okay, I have to do more research into this. So I'm still doing the work and still looking for someone. In my own line of work, I've learned that you have to live to be inspired. How do you feel your creativity when you're feeling low, or when your creativity is low, where you have to do a project for a client or even for yourself, and you're like,
Hmm.
I need to re-inspire myself to get like get creating again.
Hmm. That's like a good question. Because I feel like lately, from like what I mentioned to you before, it's like I feel like I've been giving to a lot of people more than myself right now. For different reasons. Sometimes like you need to show up for people, and but at the same time, it's like now I'm feeling kind of depleted, and now I'm feeling kind of uninspired and tired, and like so for me at this point, it's like now that I have a little bit more time to think about myself, like for one, like slowing down, I think would be a good place to start. I think as a freelancer and stuff, like a business owner, or whatever, you're like, go, 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 like what's next? So even just like the small thing of like having a day or two to slow down would be like really great. Um, and I when I'm like looking to be inspired, like for creative work, I think I look a lot of inspirations of other creatives doing different things, cool things, other designers, other illustrators, photographers and things like that. I'll like go on Pinterest and just seeing other people's inspirations like inspire me, you know, in that sense of just like doing creative work. I think right now I haven't really had time to do personal stuff. I would like to, but again, like I'm feeling kind of depleted to do personal work right now. But like I think like listening to music, doing other hobbies that like kind of inspire me to be the best version of myself, like really inspire me creatively. And since my like personal work is so much about like my reflections of like my healing, my reflections about like current states of life and like things like that, I need to be kind of constantly in a state of like reflecting and finding ways of like visually recreating that and like work. So yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like so I have these moments where like I feel depleted and Mondays are my favorite days of the week. I know not a lot of people like Mondays, but I just think it's like a fresh start for me. I used to like have this thing on Instagram. I used to like make money Monday, like come on guys, like let's get to it.
Yeah.
But Mondays are also like the day when like I clean my room and my room needs to be cleaned badly. I need to clean my room. I need to like burn incense. I set the tone. I'm like, no, it's gonna be a great week. Like, let's get into it. And it sounds
Mm-hmm.
like that's something where it's like you need like a reset day. Like you need that day where it's like, okay, time to pour into me. I've been like giving to this person or that person a lot more lately. And it's like, nope, I can't pour from it. I can't pour from an empty cup if I have nothing left to give.
Yeah.
So I hope that you get that moment. I wish I was in Florida. We would totally do something.
Yes, of
So,
course.
I don't know when I'm going to be back, which that's a story for a different day.
Right.
Um,
Or what if I'm ever in New York
I
again? Like we
was,
should meet up.
I was just going to say that. Because well, we'll say it after, which I don't mind saying it now. I'm actually going to the Whitney Museum tonight, so I'm
Oh,
excited because it's like
nice.
free Friday. So I'm going to do
Okay.
that later. You kind of answered this, but I'm going to ask it anyway, just in case. How do
Okay.
you take care of your mental health on a daily? What does self care look like for you?
Yeah, I guess like I mentioned, like kind of
Yeah.
going back to those things, but um I think like I'm someone that like gets inspired also by like trying new things. I think there's something like really fun about like just challenging myself with something I like a new hobby or something like that. I like used to do pole a lot, like just for fun, and like it would like kick my ass, but I was just excited by the challenge of it. And then when I would get something right, I'm like, I feel powerful, I feel feminine, and like those types of things just inspired me. Would
Same,
you do
same,
pole?
same. Yeah, I did. That's like, did I tell you that
Mhm.
before that I did pole?
I don't know.
Okay, so I started pole like last summer, but I've been in and out of it. I was supposed
Same.
to go hard with it in April, but that just wasn't possible. So in May, I'm gonna like pick it back up again. I'm gonna actually buy the shoes and everything.
Yes.
I'm
Oh,
like,
that's exciting.
I'm nervous. I'm gonna go inside the sex shop and be like, hey, I'm here for shoes. I don't
Can
know.
I ask you like what are you drawn to about pole? Because I think like people say different things.
Yeah, I think for me, at first, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I'm gonna bring it back to the point. So a few weeks ago, I went to this class and this woman was a pole dancer, and she's like, "Do you think pole is sensual or sexual?" And I think that is what drew me away from it at first. Is that or drew me into it, but away from it is that people I think look at pole as sexual because when do you see pole is when
Mm-hmm.
you go to a strip club and it's when do men want pole? They want you to have a pole in their room with them and they want you to do dances for them. But I
Uh-huh.
think like as I started taking the classes, I realized it's so sensual and I realized how much we as women sometimes aren't connected to our own bodies in like a sensual way and like how do I feel? Like what makes me feel sexy? Like, ooh, I did this like you're trying to recreate the move you see someone else doing and you think it has to be like this, but it's like, no, I need to actually like feel the move and like
Mm-hmm.
really get into it. So I think my view on it has changed because of that.
Yeah.
Are there some parts of it that I think is sexy? Yes. I'm like, if I see someone do a move, I'm like, oh my God, that's so sexy the way you just did that. But
Uh-huh.
I think as I'm doing it, I realize how much I'm not comfortable in my own skin in some ways in like a sensual, sexual way. So
Mm.
I'm trying to get tap into that. What about you?
Yeah, that's like really interesting. No, I agree. Like definitely it's like a strip clubs type vibe and that's what like we've associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like always like, supportive and positive like about like with sex workers
Mm-hmm.
and things like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Same.
But they're yeah, a lot of men can be really degrading in a lot of ways, or there's like this toxic masculinity like associated with pole. Um, but I'll see like creatives like really embracing it as like another way of expressing themselves through their body, like taking it in like a performance kind of realm too. And like, or like FK Twigs or like just whoever, like just other pole like artists as well. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
really just embracing the femininity and like power that they feel. And like that's how I feel. I'm like, this is like really exciting and more like making me in touch with my body, like you're saying, in touch with like my sensuality and being like confident in that.
Hmm.
And like that carries me through the rest of my day and through the rest
Hmm.
of my week and hopefully forever.
No, same, same. And I think like exactly what you said. I think I weight train, so that's like mainly
Yeah.
what I've been doing as like my gym or wellness practice. But I think for me, does weight training make me feel sexy? Yes, it does. It makes me feel strong. I feel
Mm.
confident. But I think like when it comes to like intimacy and like a partner, I want to feel like confident and sexy in other ways. And I think
Hmm.
pole provides that to me because you do need a lot of upper body strength in pole.
Oh yeah.
Like you need a lot to get up there, to do the little flips, to like have your, I just want to put that
For
out there,
sure.
but definitely I find like sensual and sexual, like I find confidence in pole in other ways. So yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay,
also do
so
weight stuff too.
you do.
Yeah, but it's like such a different way of using your body, like for sure. So
No, it is. It is. Like I feel fine. Like, hey, I lifted this much, or I hit a PR. Great, but it's like I
it
want
feels
to
like a
like
chore.
it.
It feels like a
It is a
chore.
chore, and I was gonna say that off of something you said earlier. That sometimes it's like the gym is like it feels like a hobby or something I have to do. And some days I'm like, I'm so excited. I can't wait to reach these goals. And some days I'm like, let me just check this
Get
off
it
the to-do
out.
list. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the
Uh-huh.
day.
There you go.
So getting back into the career questions a little bit, how do you manage creating for the brands you work with versus creating for fun?
Hmm.
And even creating for, because you create for brands, you create for
Yeah.
fun, but then you also do it for therapy practice as well. So like how do you manage the different elements of like the creativity that you're doing?
Hmm. I mean, like for one, for brand projects, I've been pretty lucky enough to be able to have a lot more of the control of a lot of the creative for the branding projects. I like really love storytelling. I really love working with brands to tell their marketing stories, their product stories through a lot of these like campaigns. And so like when I do get a lot more creative freedom on these projects, I think that's like the best way to like showcase the product. I think brands reach out to me a lot of the times for my style and kind of my like 3D freelance portfolio. Um, and I like just like am inspired by my like keeping with my style and like the authenticity of like who I am, like even with like brand projects. Um, but occasionally like sometimes I'll just get a project with like, can you do this? Like we just need this. And like, you have the technical skill and you just do it. But there's a lot to be learned from projects like that too, and the relations that you build with like these brands as well. And I guess like personal work, like I said, I don't always have time, especially now, like now lately. But it is kind of hard sometimes, like after you've been like working and working on brand projects to like want to like pour into your own personal projects now. And so it's usually like when I have a little more free time, like I'll dedicate to like some of my personal stuff. Um, which I guess is like good because it's also like my diary. Like it's like also my journals. So it's like I'm not journaling enough. Um, that's true. I don't think I've been like I haven't had time to really pour in myself right now. But I would say that being a creative, being a designer, being an artist, I try not to draw too many lines. I think I bring them all a little bit, like put myself and my creativity into like everything that I do. And like we're talking about like the like artist therapy type of thing and like my personal work, like that's just like me authentically, like how I'm thinking right now and how I'm like moving through life. It's like I'm focused on healing. I'm focused on being the best version of myself. And art has always been like kind of like my space to be creative and like my space to process like emotions and feelings. So like I don't can you hear that? Okay, good. Okay. But yeah, art has always been kind of my space to process like emotions, stressors in life, and that's always like been my authentic way of approaching art. So that's not like something that doesn't feel unnatural to me. I think working with brands and things like that, like just kind of develops like more skill sets for me and allows me to be creative as well.
It develops like more skill sets for you to bring back into when you do your personal art, where it's like, oh, I was trying to figure this out for this little project for myself, but now I did it for this brand, so let me
True.
bring it back
Yeah.
there. No, yeah, I get that. Um, what is your advice to anyone that aspires to have a career in art but might be afraid they'll lose the passion for it, or maybe they don't have the support to pursue it?
Hmm. I think, can you repeat the question one more time?
That's fine. What is your advice to anyone that, so the way the question is written, because I kind of remixed it at the end, is I have, what is your advice to anyone that is inspired, okay, what is your advice to anyone that inspires or that is working towards having a career in art, but maybe they're afraid they'll lose the passion for it?
Hmm. That's like real because, especially like nowadays when we're like all in this like side hustle culture, like I need to have and make money in so many different ways. We think like every passion we have, every creative outlet we have needs to be monetized.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, so then like you hear a lot of people like just losing the passion for it because it just isn't what like they wanted it to be. So I've like definitely like as much as like I allow myself to be creative in all the things that I do art healing, I do all those things. That's like for me, right? But it's also about like compartment whoa.
Compartment, ugh. I know what you're trying to say, compartmentalizing, but not that, but that.
Compartmental.
Yeah.
Um, okay. But yeah, I guess it's like just about making sure we're like keeping different parts of ourselves like separate as well. I think it's okay to have certain hobbies. I don't think everything needs to be monetized. I think when I work on brand projects, I'm not as like attached to those projects as much as I am like some of my personal work or some of my like emotional work that I'm doing. So I'm okay with that though. I get to be creative and I understand like when you're working with corporate brands, like there's a space that I have for that creatively, and then there's like a space that I have for like my own personal work. Um, and I guess I mean it's kind of hard to not spread yourself thin sometimes, honestly. I think it's like not being hard on yourself. Like when the time is comes, like you'll have the time and the opportunity to keep working on the things you want to. Not everything's gonna happen all at once. And that's kind of where I'm at. It's like, yeah, I love to do more personal work. I love the ability to like just be able to do that. But, like it'll come when the time is right. And once I've like have more space and like I guess filling my own cup too.
Yeah. And I even tell myself it's like going back to the gym. It's like sometimes I'm going and I'm just like, I don't want to go, but it's just at this point, it's a part of my routine. Like I can't not go, even though I do
Yeah.
take time off from the gym. Like it's like my PTO time from work. So it's like there are
Yeah.
times where you need a break from art, and it's like you know what, I just need to like just get out there and get inspired and just live life a little bit,
Yeah.
and then come back to it or whatever the case may be. But it's normal. Like you're not going to be in
Yeah.
love with something all the time. It's even like family or parents. Like they're in marriages, but sometimes they're like they may not get a divorce, but they're like, okay, we need a little space
Yeah.
from each other right now, or in relationships. So
Uh-huh,
yeah.
for sure.
So even though this isn't as recent, but still, congratulations are in order. You landed your first billboard in Times Square. How does that feel?
Great. I still have like people bring that up sometimes and I like remind myself to like remember those things and like remember to be grateful, remember to like think about like these are things that I wanted for myself X amount of time ago and I got them now. So it's like I have to like really appreciate that, and sit with those things because I think it's so easy to be like, what's next? What's next? Like I need like, but you're not just like being happy with what you have. So yeah, like even though that was, I guess like earlier in the year now, like I still like look back at that and I still like remind myself to be grateful. Like that's something that happened and like a lot of people like really like appreciate and respect that. And so um that's like where my feelings have been with it.
No, I agree. I don't know if I'm not saying that other fields don't feel the same way, but I feel like in a creative field, because you're just like you said, you're just go, 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 go. It's like, yeah, I got this. Check it off. Okay, now what's next? What are we doing? We're still in the middle of this
Uh-huh.
project, or we're working on this, or we're starting that, or we're ending this. It's like you forget to sit there and like appreciate it or the moments that you accomplish.
Yeah.
Tend to do it when I'm updating my portfolio, and I'm just like, yo, I've done, how do I
Uh-huh.
rework this? How do I re-show like what I've accomplished? And I'm just like, because some days, you're like, I haven't accomplished anything. I'm not doing anything. I don't know, like it's at least it affects me. But then I look at my portfolio
Yeah.
and I'm like, girl, you need to stop. Like you're doing things are happening, like it's fine.
For sure. Yeah.
So yeah. Are there any projects or initiatives that you're currently working on that you're particularly excited about that you can share? Because I do understand NDA for if it's a brand project, but anything personally that you may be working on.
Um, I I'm working with some brands that I've worked with in the past on more like exciting projects. I'm always like grateful when a brand like wants to rework again.
Circle the
And
block.
yeah,
Mhm.
and then more than that, like allow me to have like so much creative freedom and like trust that what I'm bringing and putting out will like be successful for them. So that's always like the best part when you can collaborate and also like get that trust from like certain brands. Guess I can't like say names, but some brands I've done in the past. Um, Also, I guess like some new ones that I've been like really like wanting to work with. That's always like the best feeling. Um, and in terms of personal work, right now, like not really. I've been wanting to like print out like some works and like see how people respond to that, but I
I
don't
was
know.
gonna say, because you said you're not really a gallery person, so you've never like really
Yeah.
showed much work inside of a gallery or had like an art show type of thing.
In the past I
Oh, in the
have
past.
like when
Okay.
I was in like school and things like that, but
Mm-hmm.
like lately like my work has been so digital, but
Mm-hmm.
it would be like interesting to see like how my work would look printed large in physical space and
Yeah.
also see how people would respond to that. So that's something I've been interested in, but we'll see.
I think you should. I love a cute gallery moment and just like seeing things in person. I think like obviously being online and social media is great, but just like seeing stuff like in the flesh in person is also just as great.
Yeah, I've been really wanting to like do more physical things
Do
or
it.
put my work in like events and stuff like that.
I think you should. I say do it. What are your thoughts? So last question and then we'll go into the fun questions. What are
Okay.
your thoughts on AI and art?
Yeah, I remember we had this
Yeah,
conversation.
I remember.
Um, we are in unprecedented times. Like, I don't know. I've heard people love it. They're excited by it, think it's the best thing. And then I think a lot of creatives are just really scared and anti right now. Um, and I get that. I I've like, especially last time we talked about it, I was kind of on the fence about it, or just kind of like it's here and it's here to stay. Like, it's not going anywhere. And I do think that's still true. I do not think AI is going anywhere. Um, but I think a lot of people are scared because, especially with this like new release of ChatGPT and like kind of those conversations on like authentic art and like this like replication of like Studio Ghibli style and all those things and other artist styles just being kind of like commodified in that way. Like a lot of people are scared by that and I think a lot of people think like we're heading in a direction where so much of the soul of what it means to be creative is like being rendered obsolete, at least by like Fortune 500 companies, at least by just like brands, corporate brands and stuff. And that sucks. That's a slap in the face in a lot of ways. But I do remember bringing that up where in the when we talked about it, it's just like the scary part is how our society responds. And I think in theory, most people know like the human mind will always be the human mind. You can't really replace that with AI. But at the same time, everything's about saving money. Everything's about cost efficiency. And for a lot of companies, and when you're working with brands and things like that, like that's a scary thought to think like people think you're obsolete now, or you will be in the next few years. But not even just creative, like it's coming for everybody. They just
Everybody.
don't realize it. Not yet. Good luck, but it's coming. Like if it's coming for us, like it's coming for everyone. And like even just like huge tech bros like who have been like dedicating their lives to coding and like these tech companies, like their CEOs being like, we don't need you guys anymore. Like that's scary. Like I don't know. But honestly, like on a more less dark note, um, I think that truly this is like a time where a lot of these companies and these brands need to really, this is what they should be doing, thinking about how you need to use and harness creative minds as much as possible right now in this new age of AI. Like we're not actually obsolete. You need us more now than ever. I think because we know we're getting to a point where the playing field is like being leveled out. Now with like some of these AI tools, the man in his basement or like the solopreneur, whoever can kind of create a lot of what you're creating. And we're also like going to be entering a market where everything's super saturated. Everything's going to be exactly the same. Like there's not gonna be much, you know, differentiating like these bigger brands, these luxury companies or these companies that, have stood against, I guess, some of these smaller businesses and whatever. Like, but now the conversation is like, how are you using creative minds to stand out? And like how quickly that needs to go at this point. Like it's like I don't know what's next. Like that's what's scary and like a lot of people are gonna have to really pivot and a lot of jobs are gonna be like in question and a lot of people are gonna have to really like unfortunately a lot of not unfortunate, but I mean a lot of people think it's unfortunate to like incorporate AI into like their career, into their life. It's here and it's coming fast and it's scary. Um, Copyright is scary. That's what I got.
Retweet, no, retweet everything you said. And just like we recorded originally in December and now it's April, and just like all of the
Hmm.
changes that have happened with AI and
Yeah,
jobs just in this short time frame is
for real.
like you're talking. I'm like, I remember us talking about this, and I remember I mentioned like my friend, they're like a person in their family had a surgery and it was all done by a robot, by AI. Like it was, there was no
Well,
human doing the surgery. So it's just like you
really? What
said, it's
surgery
not.
was that?
I don't remember. Maybe it was a knee surgery. I could be getting it wrong, but it's literally coming for everyone and like everyone's jobs. Like no one's safe right now. Um,
Well,
yeah, and you said
I didn't
like
know that.
AI can't take the soul. You said something about like the soul part. I agree with that because yes, AI can do all these things, but there's still a creative, there's still a soul, there's still a person there that understands the human mind. And like, do I use ChatGPT? Do I use AI? Yes, because we're in a world where you have to use it. But even like the conversations and how they speak, I'm like, this just reads like not a human saying this. Like, if that makes sense. Like,
Right.
ChatGPT can't make Hallmark cards. I know it's like, oh, that's a whatever job, but like ChatGPT making a Hallmark card would just sound so
That's so
horrible.
funny.
Like you need that person that understands pop culture, understands spunk, understands like
Hmm.
how human to human communicate. And AI gets it, but it doesn't. So like you
I
said, we
mean,
do need to
yeah.
over.
No,
No, go
I
ahead.
mean, right now, I don't know what's gonna happen in the next, like, like
Yeah.
maybe like just this new release of ChatGPT and all that. I'm like, dang, that was fast. I
Mhm.
remember we talked about it and I was like, I don't know if AI could like, but now I don't know, honestly, because it's moving fast too. Um, like faster than I think people are comfortable with.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on that.
And so a lot of technical jobs, yeah. And I didn't
Yeah.
even know AI was doing surgery.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or chat, like not chat or AI, but like, well, it is chat and AI. It's technology. Like it's yeah.
And I know AI is being used for like X-rays and like they're checking X-rays with AI now and stuff like that. I don't know if I want AI checking my X-ray, but I don't know.
I think it's crazy because I even think I read an article where it's like, say if you're like having heart surgery. Did you watch One Tree Hill?
No.
Okay, it's okay because the person like a cast member needed heart surgery, like not in real life, but on the show. And they were like they had a beeper they had to walk around with to like tell them when it was their time to have the surgery. And basically AI is using like let's say there's patient A and there's patient B. Patient A has some sickness, so now they moved up in the like the ranking of who gets the heart next. So like
Hmm.
AI is being used to like reorganize. Okay, how do we decide who gets this heart or who gets this
Oh wow.
needed whatever? So it's coming for everything. It's coming for everything and everyone. And I think like no matter where you stand on it, you need to like start incorporating your life and start utilizing it. Will I change my mind in a few months? I don't know. Maybe so. Because from our
Right.
original conversation to now.
Yeah,
But you just need to incorporate it in your life and just at least understand it. If you don't use it, at least
yeah,
understand it. I think that's the most important.
for sure.
Okay.
God.
So we got into a lot of stuff. It sucks. I'm gonna just say it. It sucks having to do a re-record because I just think the first time sometimes is just so I was listening to the conversation. I'm just like, oh my God, this is so good, but whatever. But anyway,
Aw,
I still think it was still a good conversation.
yeah.
But let's get into some fun questions. So for the fun questions, Filipino food or Haitian food?
Still Haitian food.
Okay. Painting or sculptures? Like, would you rather paint or would you rather do sculpturing? Or like, oh, you're thinking.
Um, I'll just say sculpture because that's, my past, but I also painted and like honestly lately I've just been like wanting to just do a random painting again or like
Okay.
I don't know.
And that could be
But
probably
sculpture.
like the part of the art exhibit. Like you said, you want to like print something. That could be like what you do. You just paint
Mm,
something.
true.
Favorite museum? I don't remember. I feel like the last time you said you didn't have one. Do you have a favorite museum?
Not that it's my favorite, but I remember like having a really great um experience seeing an exhibition at the Palais de Tokyo.
Okay.
I think I said that.
Okay.
It's a museum in Paris and I was just like genuinely surprised at how much like amazing work I saw in there.
Hmm.
That I haven't really seen in a while, like in a museum set or
Wow.
gallery setting. So
Hmm.
that was like fun.
Okay. Favorite artist, dead or alive?
Favorite artist? I still don't know.
Okay, that's fine. Um, then okay, so I don't know if you don't want to answer this question, it's fine. But basically,
Mhm.
because it was around Art Basel time, I said it's a running joke that people come to Art Basel but don't see the art. What is your advice to someone whose first time it might be attending Art Basel? How would you recommend they plan their day?
Oh,
Basically,
this was
what
like
we
so long
did.
ago.
I know. I think it's basically
Yeah.
like took the boat over to like South Beach and just like walk around and look at the art. Like there was a lot of
Yeah.
good, okay, art exhibits.
Yeah, for
Alrighty.
sure.
Alrighty. So is there any questions that I didn't ask that you or okay, I worded that wrong. Is there any questions that I didn't ask or anything that you want to say?
Um, no, I think like we covered a lot
Yeah.
and you know, I guess I'm curious to know like how AI is affecting your field and like
Oh,
I don't know.
Okay, so as you know, like day wise, I work like influencer marketing, community management, social media. Even right now, like for the podcast, me like using AI, like say when I write a caption, I'll like see what recommendations AI or ChatGPT may have to like improve the caption. But a lot of the times I feel like doesn't it doesn't have a brand voice. Like you know how like you may work with a brand, but before you even see who the post is from, you know this person or this brand wrote this caption because of how that brand voice sounds. It's hard to find that with AI. So I tend not to use it. I may use it to see like certain words that like it may help me find like synonyms to certain words so that way I'm not using like the same words all the time. Um, I've
Okay.
also been using it to like help with like getting captions together or like editing content, but trying to incorporate it in my life, but also knowing, like you said, it doesn't have the soul, the creative, the voice. It doesn't
Yeah.
have
Okay.
that. It doesn't have that. So even in my day-to-day job, I think it's obviously being incorporated. At like this part-time job I have, I'll like collect tickets and they have a machine now that collects a ticket. I just stand there and tell people how to use the machine basically.
Okay, wow.
So it's like concerts. If you've gone to a concert lately, you don't even have printed tickets anymore.
Right, it's on the
Um,
phone or
they're mostly
something.
digital. So it's changing in a lot of fields. It's the
Okay.
little jobs that are left, they're very little left. So yeah, I'm
Okay.
just trying to stay up to date on everything and just trying to figure out how do I use it? What do I use it for? So yeah.
Okay, I had like one last question, and it's
Okay.
kind of about like healing and stuff. Because I've been thinking about this a lot
Hmm.
and like had a conversation with my therapist about it recently too. Like, what are your thoughts on this idea of closure and like what does that even mean to you? And like how like significant do you find it to be for like your healing?
So what you said earlier about forgiveness, that's turned
Hmm.
into what closure has been for me. Um, Not to get too deep, but like I've realized like my parents are my parents. They are living this life for the first time. And while I may not agree with like some of their decisions, I've had to decide to make certain decisions for my life, in order to protect me.
Hmm.
And knowing that even if I share with them like how I feel, I may not get the response I want back. Like they're not
Yeah.
gonna say and I'm sorry. They're not gonna like it may not lead to change behavior, but like I had to like forgive them and kind of like let it go. And that's has to have been like closure for me.
Right.
Um it's hard because we can't go into things like looking for a certain response or a certain outcome. But we do, like we said before the call, we do have to learn to be vulnerable, to share ourselves and how we feel with people. Because I think like a past thing I had was I was having like my throat chakra was blocked.
Mm.
So say like we're friends. So I would like tell you like, oh my God, Samantha, this person did this. I'm so upset. And every day I'll come with you. Today they did this. Today they did that. Today they did that. But never telling the person how I feel. Now, am I gonna tell the person everything? No, because I think not everything needs to be said, but I am gonna at least voice my concerns with that person and then see how they choose to like either correct the situation or not. And I think
Hmm.
for me, that's decided like, do I pursue a continued friendship or relationship with this person or do I stop? So
Yeah.
that's been like closure, un that's been like unintentional closure in some ways for me.
Hmm.
But it's also me making sure like I have the people around me that I can be able to have these conversations with and not lead to like bad communication. So yeah. Not sure
Okay.
if that answered your question, but yeah.
No, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. I love stuff like this. I love it. Last question before we close out is what are your social handles for anyone that wants to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly on Instagram, if anything, just sharing my work, but it's, at svassor on Instagram, and my website is samanthavassor.com.
Okay. And I'll have it in the show notes for anyone that wants to like look at your work or connect with you.
Thanks.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much, Samantha, for doing this free record. This was the struggle, but we did it.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for having me. Like, I'm so happy that I could have these conversations with other creatives and like hopefully other people listen to this and like really like resonate.
Mhm. Thank you. Can't wait until the next episode to get your cup filled. Follow us on our social media platforms at Pour Into My Cup on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Pinterest. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast to stay updated when new episodes are released. Leave a review and pour into someone else's cup by sharing the podcast. And I have to ask, is your cup half empty or half full? Peace, love, happiness. Brashiba signing off.